say good evening to all of you from Killarney, and even those who are not from Killarney, because as the boundary change, whenever that come about, some of you who are in Killarney may be out of Killarney, and some of you who are out of Killarney may be in. So me, who is presently out, may be in too. The government has just recently announced that each and every constituency will be allotted $50,000 for the constituency. That's not my money, that's your money. And we're here tonight so we can discuss, you can ask questions as to how that money should be spent. I may have my ideas, but it's your community, and therefore you must make that decision. Many are doing different things with parks and whatever, but we have faced the day with crime as an issue. And we're going to combat crime by prevention, building strong communities. And we're also going to combat crime by informing the criminals that once he comes within Killarney constituency, he's automatically viewed on a TV monitor. I've made a commitment that we would use that money to introduce CCTV into the Killarney constituency. What that would do, as the camera system is introduced, it would be monitored by the police. And yes, some of you may say that's infringing on individuals' privacy. But sometimes you win, and sometimes you lose. It's good at this end, and it's bad at the next end. But that's how the world goes. The $50,000 would not be sufficient to cover the entire Killarney. I also opened up by saying that some of you would not be in Killarney tomorrow, and some of you may be in Killarney tomorrow. Today, I am not in Killarney. Killarney don't even have an office. Killarney's office is in Clifton. There's no office in Killarney. And therefore, the choices I'm going to give to you is one of three. We can attempt to introduce the camera system throughout the entire community, which means we extend from Oaksfield straight up to Atlantic Drive, which is Super Value, extending to Westridge and South Westridge as far as Dignity. But that won't, inclusive of Emerald Coast, but that won't be sufficient. If we did it that way, then it means that the community itself must have some financial input. So what would happen is each association would receive their particular portion of the funds, and they must put in the difference. That's one option. The other option is we can do it segmentally, where we can do association by association, and each would be completed, and segmentally we can move so that at the end of several years, we would complete the entire camera system within the Killarney community. That's the second option. And that way, the community would not have to infuse any funding. The third option, and these are options that would be open to you. The third option is that we can obtain information from the police so that they can inform us as to which of the communities are having the most problems. We know that there are anecdotal information that where there is an increase in active construction, there's anecdotal information that there's also increase in crime. If that information, though anecdotal, is correct, then it means that those areas adjoining the construction zones would probably be the first to be hit. And from that anecdotal information, it would mean that the skyline, the Lake Cunningham area, it would mean that the Skyline Lake area, it would mean that the Westwood Villa area would be the one within the striking zones. those areas and deal with it appropriately. And the other choice is we can find out, as I mentioned, from the police themselves as to which area has the most problems and therefore deal with that particular area so that the criminal element would know that once you enter the Killarney constituency, you are automatically monitored and watched on video. There are different types of camera system. You can have a camera system that can zoom in and see an individual's fingernail or the hair strand. Those are very accurate. So any car in your community, they can zoom in and detect the license plate, the license number, and therefore accuracy is not a problem. So those are three options that after the presentation by the CCTV experts, you, the community, would have to make. But what it also does, what the camera also do, we have always had concerns and issues with individuals dumping in our areas. That's especially in the Emerald Coast area, Westridge, or once a lot, or some open space. And that's now becoming a concern in the Twin Lakes area. So it's only a matter of time before it continues to spill within the zones. But if we introduced the camera system, we would be able to see exactly who is doing the dumping, who is trying to contaminate our area, or who is trying to affect our environment. And even though we may not catch them right then, I have spoken to the legal department, and they have advised me that once the camera catch them, see them in action, they can still present them with a summons at a later date and find them. So they may not see them now, they may see them, but the individual may not actually get the summons to appear to court and be charged until a few days after. So we'd be able to deal with not only the criminal element, but we'd be able to deal with the criminal element with respect to the environment. But I think that's all I want to say at this time, but we have quite a number of young people here, and at the end of our presentation, I talked to them, especially about job opportunities, just briefly, and in about another month, we will have a town meeting on job opportunities and leading you in the right direction. But I want to thank you all for coming and welcome you all here tonight. What I'd like to say is that we are all here tonight for a common interest. And we all have genuine concerns. We are all concerned with the problems that we see in our neighborhood. We are concerned with the problems of the community. And we are concerned even with the problems in the country. But I am here tonight to deal with the common concerns and the common interests that we see, and make these interests, these common interests that we have, make these common goals. I want to change common concerns into genuine care. We would have heard many words and phrases throughout the year. Excellent phrases, excellent words, talking about how we can resolve different issues and solve different problems. We would have heard some words that would have sounded very good. And we would have heard words and phrases that would make you feel good. And I can stand here tonight and likewise give you a lot of words to make you feel good. And I can likewise state a lot of phrases and make you feel good also. But I won't do that. I'm not here to do that. What I want to do is make these words and phrases come to fruition, true action. We are tired of hearing good words, good phrases. It's now Killarney, it's now time for action. When we check and look in the community, we would hear about different individuals being robbed, different criminal events. While we may be sleeping, the criminals are lurking and doing different damage and insults to our country and to our communities. But the question I must ask you tonight is, how many of you within your community do walkabouts? How many of you within your community go to the parks and have community gathering regularly? How many of you in your community know each other? And one of the best ways to fight crime is not by changing and implementing new laws, not by changing and implementing camera system. The most important thing, all of those are essentially to deal with crime after it occurs. The most important thing is to prevent them. Just like in medicine, when we try to prevent illness, the same thing happens with crime. We must also prevent them. And I remember growing up in Baintown, we had informal communities, but yet we knew everyone within the communities. And I think as a start here tonight, the first thing we should do is introduce each other to the individual next to you. So as we leave here tonight, we would know each and every individual here. I think that would be an excellent start. Community building, showing love, respect for each other, and showing that you care. We care. So let's now just introduce ourselves to each other. Don't that make you feel better? For the first time, sometimes it's a next door neighbor, and yet it takes a meeting like this for you to talk or meet your next door neighbor. And it's simple things like this that will help to build a community. Simple things like this would show that each and every one in the community care. And what we truly are trying to do, first of all, before we move into the technological world, we must go back to basic, where we need to bring care back into our community. We need to strengthen our community. We need to show love and respect for each other. And we need to strengthen community relationship. That is first and foremost. And I must congratulate Killarney, because Killarney, I think, has demonstrated itself to be one of the role models in community living and community building. But still we can go further. In Killarney, we have at least, during my campaign, the one thing I promised and pushed and was driving towards was the formation of community associations within Killarney itself. Because I recognize that Killarney is a broad and a wide and extensive community. It extends all the way from Queen Elizabeth Sports Center up to Atlantic Drive in the west, going across to Westridge, South Westridge, Emerald Coast, and as far over Carmichael Road to Dignity. And you have different diversity within the area. Everybody, you have different backgrounds, different needs, different wants. The concerns in Westridge are completely different from those in Rock Crusher. The concerns in Emerald Coast, completely different from those in Dignity, and likewise different from those in the Grove. And therefore, it was a goal, an objective to ensure that you had community so that you can deal with each concern differently. And therefore in Killarney we have Oaksfield Homeowners Association, we have Rock Crusher Homeowners Association, we have Highland Park Homeowners Association, we have Westwood Villa, we have Westridge, South Westridge, Emerald Coast, and even Dignity, and all have different needs and wants. And I think moving forward, we need to strengthen those, because you find that if you went back to the old days, as I spoke earlier, growing up in Baintown, we had associations, but they were not formal, they were informal associations. We knew every individual within that community, and if any stranger came in that community, we knew. So if everything was missing, we knew. And when one's parents went to school, the next door neighbor ensured that the kids were taken care of. So there was truly a community. We've deviated from that, and that's why it's essential to have different associations so that you would know each other. And tonight is an excellent start. Because if with the associations, it's very important for you to inform your neighbor that if you are going away, don't you think your neighbor should know? Because how do criminals would act? They would drive into your community, open your homes, and they drive off with all your furnitures. And the neighbor's under the impression, oh, John is moving. They don't have a clue. But you need to build a relationship where John knows that you're leaving, that you're going away. And you must trust John so that even at intervals, John can turn your light on for you. And in some communities, in some neighborhoods right here, within the Killarney constituencies, individuals have built up a bond and a friendship, whereas they go off, they even leave the key with individuals, so that if there's a fire, if there's something, they can deal with that. That's what you call community building. That's the way you prevent crime. Now we'll talk about all the CCTV, but CCTVs will prevent, but most of our CCTV will catch. But the most important thing is to prevent. But when you build a strong relationship, you not only form crime awareness or activities to deal with crime itself, but you should extend beyond crime, because you know that we're experiencing a lot of difficulty, the financial difficulty, the increase in oil, increase in gas, increase in food, etc. So we think back to where we came from. You remember that there were networking. What's to stop us when you build a community and you know your neighbor? What's to stop you from networking again? So that you can purchase in bulk, and the food prices that we see today would automatically go down. We used to do that yesterday, but now we've gone beyond ourselves and we stopped doing that, but we need to get back to that. Not only do we purchase in bulk, but we have a traffic problem, we have price in gas, increased price in gas. But what's to stop us from forming carpooling again? Because in many instances, 3, 4 kids from the same area going to the same school, and each of us are spending separately. So the $400 or $500 that each of us are spending, we can cut that down to $50 just by carpooling. And if you knew your neighbors, just like how you introduce yourselves here tonight, you can deal with that. So you can carpool. There are a lot of other things in Killarney. I must thank you for the response you've given us in terms of, we've asked for the the various communities to donate just one can, a non-cherishable item, one can of food, be it rice, corn, beef, sardine, whatever. One can, twice per year. That's not too much for most people. Twice per year, one can. Most of you had participated, but we have succeeded in developing a food bank so that we can give 3 families within the community food every month. 3 families. And it's not political, because I don't know who gets who obtains the food. The communities themselves make that decision, who those individuals. And we don't take pictures because nobody wants to be flashed across some screen to say that they're getting some form of subsidy. But I must thank you for the generosity that you've given. But we continue that. Imagine if that would extend not only in Killarney but throughout the Bahamas. The problems that we see today, we can decrease that. At the same time, if you know each other, then that helps with the crime watch situation that we see. We've had a lot of problems about garbage collection and whatever, and you've been very good in communicating to me. And I'm happy to say here tonight that I've had discussion with the minister responsible for collection, and again, what he's agreed to and what he will be implementing very soon, he will inform us as to the schedule that the garbage trucks will be passing in the Killarney community, so that you can put your garbage out in a timely fashion, so that the problems that we face with dogs we no longer would face. You would know exactly what time the trucks would be passing, and that information would be conveyed to you through our communication network. Now, before I go on to the CCTV, when I was campaigning, I said on numerous occasions that it was humanly impossible for me to come to each and every house. It was humanly impossible for me to be at each and every house. I could not do it, and I was not going to stress myself out trying to do what I could not do. But what I promised you is that I would introduce a system and some technological advanced system so that every morning as you wake up, you'd see or hear from me. And every complaint you have, you'd be able to communicate that to me. And I will deal with that appropriately. I totally agree with a form of local government. But what I wanted to do, and what we were successful in doing, is introducing to you, and which you've accepted, a virtual type of local government. Meaning that we've introduced a system where if you see any problem within the community, you know exactly where to communicate, and we communicate that to the relevant authority. That way we can deal with our community appropriately. But that can only continue once we continue our communication network and we continue to strengthen the associations that we have here. You cannot leave here tonight without knowing who are in your association. You must know who lives in Westridge, who lives in Rock Crusher, who lives in Highland Park. You must know each and every individual. And as we build our associations, we will combat crime. And you must have other forms of social events so that within your community you do your regular walkabouts, clean up, etc. And we must even move where we can have a family day so that the residents of Killarney can take the time out at least once per year so that everyone can go out on a family day. And even quarterly, we can take the kids out so that we would build a better bonding, a better relationship. That's how you combat crime. Because what happened is we would mold our kids from infancy straight up. And what we mold from infancy is what we get at adult. If we ignore them at infancy, then you get the criminal at adulthood, and then you start to raise hell. That's the government's responsibility. But it's each and every one of us responsibility, and we do that through community.